The American Craftsman podcast is sponsored by Hayfla. Hayfla offers a wide range of products and solutions for the woodworking and furniture making industries, from hinges and drawer slides to connectors and dowels, sandpaper, wood glue, shop carts, and everything in between. Exclusive product lines such as Lux LED lighting and Slido door hardware ensure that every project you create is built to last. Learn more at hayfla.com. Additional sponsorship provided by Ridge Carbide. When you need the right saw blade for the job, put your trust in Ridge Carbide tools. For over 50 years, Ridge Carbide has been producing industrial saw blades designed with the exact specifications for the cutting results you expect. Before you buy, call us and we'll help you determine the right tool that meets your needs and your budget. After the sale, Ridge Carbide provides sharpening services for all your saw blades, dado sets, router bits, and jointer planer knives. Located in Kansas, Ridge Carbide Tools provides high-quality products with outstanding customer service at a fair price. What are you cutting? Enjoy the show. All right, we're cutting this intro off short. Let us know if the intro's too long. We got to cut that down a little bit. Welcome back to the show.
How's it going?
Not bad, not bad. Just got what, 2 videos in?
Sure, yeah. We shot one with Cameron learning how to use the Striebig.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to see a young guy learning how to woodwork.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to me like he has a past in that. I mean,
no, he had, I think, wood shop in high school or middle school, like something very rudimentary, which is funny because I didn't even have that. It was already gone by the time I was in school. They must be bringing it back, but yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I think they have, it's not called wood shop now, I don't think. I think it's called...
like Tech Ed or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
My nephew used to teach that.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a nice little shop at the old high school that I went to.
Right.
And I did go to wood shop. I went to wood shop, I think, for maybe even 3 years. And I was the foreman at the end. I ended up going to school until... I think my junior year, I started leaving school at 12:30 and then going to work for a place called The Woodworker, having to be there at 1, and I worked there until 6, 5 days a week, and then 4 hours on Saturdays. But we did have wood shop, and it was good. I hope they bring it back because it's, look how many, like all of my kids know how to use tools. We were talking earlier about how the table saw can be a little scary or dangerous. And out of my 3 sons, the only one who uses the table saw is Walter because he uses it on a daily basis. Yeah. And he's very tool. He's just a tool guy. Where the other guys use tools, but they just don't use the table saw.
Would they? Or
if I just want to give them a little heads up. Yeah. I don't want Michael to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go cut this on the table saw. Mm-hmm. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah, it's like, that's like, we were talking about this too. Like I haven't let Cameron use the table saw yet because like, I feel like you need experience on other tools first. It seems simple because we've been doing it for however long, but like a lot can go wrong in that 10 seconds.
And just because it's a saw stop doesn't change it, because then you have to think about kickback and all the other dangers there are. Like with a miter saw, your hands really aren't ever close to the blade, where a table saw you're pushing through. Yep. It's always going through. And so it's one of those things, like you said, if you're around wood and you're cutting other pieces or using other tools, you sort of intuitively learn how to read wood. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of using a table saw. Just knowing what a piece of wood might do as you go to push it through.
Yeah.
So Walter has that, he understands that, where it's completely foreign to anybody who hasn't used a saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Cameron's only used the miter saw really. I was going to have him try the circular saw, but then I'm like, that's like, we got to wait a little bit.
Yeah, you can mess yourself up with a circular saw. What about the what's the track saw? It's a little safer because it's on a track, and
I don't know if he's used it, but yeah, I think maybe I've had to make a cut. I can't remember, but that I would have no problem. That's like you really have to be negligent to get hurt on that. You got to stick your hand underneath while you're jigsaw. I'd be comfortable with.
Bandsaws are dangerous.
Yeah, I think people get comfortable with a bandsaw because it seems safe.
Exactly, it does seem safe, but you can mess yourself up quick on a bandsaw. I haven't, but I was talking to one of my kids. I was like, yeah, that's like the main tool in a butcher.
Yeah.
And, that's what they cut all meat with is a bandsaw. It just slices through like butter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, with the bandsaw, a lot of it is like you cannot lean into that stuff, or like it's like thumbs, like pushing with your thumbs and not moving your hand, because when you're putting pressure with your arms, when you go through, you could just send your hands into the blade, Yeah.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
I had a close call on the edge bander. Was it yesterday? So I told you Friday, we went to edge band some stuff, which is so funny because Eric was here from Colonial with the new sales guy. I think his name was Sean. He was here on Wednesday, and he's amazing. Like, we got to get him mic'd up and just walk around the shop for like a whole day. He gave a symposium on the edge bander to Cameron and I.
Wow.
And this new guy, Sean.
I never met Sean.
Yeah, he's the new sales guy for like, I think New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, something like that. So he's new to Colonial Saw. So they were going around to a couple different shops. And Eric worked for Styles for a long time, which is like huge German, one of the premier woodworking tool, or if not the premier woodworking tool company. So he knows all these machines in and out, not just the stuff that Colonial sells. So I picked up a couple things that I was like, wish I had known these sooner. But he was just rattling stuff off like effortlessly about the edge bander. And then, so Cameron and I went to use it on Friday, just edge band a couple things real quick. And I got a thermic relay error. So there's all these, overloads inside the cabinet where if something isn't right, if something gets overloaded, it'll trip this little breaker essentially. So we got that. I traced it back to the end trimmer, and I couldn't get it to reset. So usually just reset it, clear the error, and then you could start working again. And it was like 3-4 hours of diagnosing this. It was the end trimmer. So we pulled the end trimmer, which is like, you've seen in there. It's a mess of brackets and dust collection. And so getting it out and taking the blades off. And so we're getting glue. The end trim unit is a motor with a blade on either end, like a circular 3-inch circular saw blade that cuts the end of the end edge banding. And we're getting glue in there, and it's basically seized it up. It didn't actually seize it. It was seized because of the glue. Yeah. So the machine went to start, the motor wouldn't turn. So it sensed that it overloaded the thing, and then it wouldn't reset. So anyway, I reach out to Brian. Brian's like, call Adwood. So I call them. They don't have the part, the overload. So I called another place. I'm on the phone with the guy, giving him the model number. I had to pull it off of the little rail that it's mounted to. And then just as I'm giving him the last digits of the model number, I hit the reset button and it resets.
Ooh.
I'm like, what the hell? I guess it had gotten hot.
Yeah.
And it had to cool off, but it was like hours. I was trying to reset it for.
But you didn't almost cut yourself.
No. So then Monday, we're putting the whole thing back together, cleaning everything. And then because we pulled the end trim, I had to retune all the timing. So it's all pneumatic, and there's some stops that you can adjust where the guide is versus the blade. So we're running all these pieces. I got the thing open, and I'm making all these adjustments. So we run a piece, I'll make an adjustment, run another one, see what I have to adjust, whatever. So we run one, and I stick my hand in there. Like the machine had turned off for a little bit, stick my hand in there, and I feel on the tip of my finger. Thank God the blade was like just at the end of slowing down.
Jeez.
But it was the end trim, a 4-inch circular saw blade.
I mean, it's
just one of those things you don't think about.
We have video of that we did a video on the edge bander, and you can see those blades.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. That's a scary thought.
I was like, man, and like not even a scratch, it was like they were turning that slow.
That's a good lesson though, because now you know, it's like, okay, I won't do that again. Like hopefully you'll remember that.
You need those wake up calls like every so often.
Yeah, because you can get like, it's not that you're getting lazy, but you can just
complacent.
Yeah, complacent with anything, with even, even like jumping out of your pickup truck. Like as you get older, you're like, I'm not going to just jump from the tailgate anymore because you don't want to blow out your knee.
Right.
You're 20 years younger than I don't know if you think that way yet.
Well, I hurt my knee last Monday. I don't even know what the hell I was doing. We were on an install, bent over, and it like, popped a little bit. My knee that's already bad. And now it's like walking down the stairs hurts.
Is your knee bad from football?
Yeah. Yeah, I blew it out. I had a meniscus tear when I was 16.
Did you play all through high school?
Yeah, I played from the time I was 5 and then like all the way through high school. Yeah.
You probably loved it though.
Yeah. Yeah. But not to the point where I look back, I'm like, wow, man, those times playing football were great.
My brother Jim played. I was small. I graduated high school at, I think 5'4", like less than 100 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, I just grew like after high school.
Wow.
And I was like a sickly little kid.
I think I was like 5'8", 275.
Yeah, I was really small. And then I just like the year or two after high school, I just grew.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I think in my mind, I feel like, I'm not a big person. But then I'll see myself in pictures with people who I think are big, and I'm bigger than they are. It just happens. So anyway, my brother Jim, he is a big guy. He's probably got 2 or 3 inches on me and a couple of pounds. And he played football, and he was state champs way back in the 80s. But he loved it, and he doesn't have any injuries. I think he was a defensive lineman. They just had a great time.
Yeah.
But there are so many people I know who played football and soccer who I guess loved it, but it almost seems like a pretty high price they're paying today because they're like hobbled.
Yeah. I had so many concussions too, like multiple concussions, my ankle,
Yeah.
For what? All for what?
People get really serious about it. I mean, people get really serious about high school sports. Now, my sons played a little bit of soccer, and that was really my wife pushing them, but they're all surfers, and they're more like surfing type.
Did Middletown have a surf team or?
I don't think so. So they played tennis. They all played tennis. I don't think Walter played his senior year, but I like tennis as a sport because I feel like it's a life sport.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's like, what do they have at retirement communities?
Yeah.
Tennis courts, shuffleboard. Yeah.
So it's funny to think of when you start getting older, you're like, wow, those injuries that you got when you were younger, you kind of have to weigh and measure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty happy that I don't seem to have any like injuries that bother me on a regular basis. Like I don't have a knee that hurts or a back that hurts. Like my brother-in-law's back from wrestling, he is messed up.
Oh, I can imagine.
I mean, he is really hurting. And it's gotten worse over the years. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm so thankful not to have to deal with that. So like, that I'm a pretty active guy now. Like, so I mountain bike anywhere between 4 and 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm addicted to, I should say it's a pedal assist mountain bike.
Yeah.
So, which means you have to pedal, but you are getting assistance and there's different levels. But I attribute that bike for getting me in the best shape that I've been in like the last 20 years because you really enjoy it. So the fun factor's there. And because you want to ride harder and not get injured, I end up doing all these pull-ups and dips and like I'm in this whole calisthenic thing. And so anyway, those are the sports that I'm into now. And I'm happy that I'm not dealing with any of these like injuries that are holdovers from high school careers.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at adult league women's soccer last night. My wife's last game of the season.
Didn't she get injured in the beginning of the season?
Yeah. She was it this season or the last season? I think it was last season. Like towards the end of last season, she had like a really bad sprain.
Wow.
Ankle. And I'm of like the school where I'm like, I want to say like You really gonna like screw up like work because you want to play rec soccer? I'm never gonna say this to my wife, but that's like I wouldn't play adult league lacrosse because I'm afraid that I'm gonna get hurt and not gonna be able to work.
But your wife could probably still work. Well, even
not with a sprayed ankle.
Yeah, you're right. Because she's still on her feet all day. She's on her feet all day.
Or a hand, or you know. I mean, I think it's good that she does it, but
she must love it if she's doing it.
Yeah. They won. It was the last game of the season, 9-0.
That's pretty.
They had some ringer on their teams. I'm like, they had brought some woman in from another team to fill in, and she had like 4 goals. But still, they still would have won 5-0.
Does your wife do a lot of extra training when she's not playing, or does she just play?
Yeah, she just plays.
Because I think soccer is so much running.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow. I don't know how you just do that cold.
She was gassed. It was the first one that I had been to. And I was trying not to laugh because I could see she was like totally gassed.
Wow.
I would have been 5 times as gassed, but.
Oh, I hate running.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy running at all. And that's all soccer is.
Oh, yeah. I didn't get home until 10 o'clock. It was like totally out of I was falling asleep, not falling asleep, but I wanted to fall asleep on the drive to the game.
How far away was it?
It was like right off the Parkway and Wall.
Okay.
Yeah. So like 30, 45 minutes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It's always good to be involved in something. I think physical activity is just such a great thing. I know when I was working on my YouTube channel, I kind of just totally focused on that. And it would be working and shooting video from early in the morning until like dinner time, and then editing until like right after dinner until I went to bed, and then editing in the morning and then going back into the shop. That's when I was trying to like do a video a week. And I remember maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, geez, what do I like to do anymore? You know, and I was mountain biking on a regular mountain bike, but it wasn't super fun because I'd go out for an hour ride and I'd just be shot.
Yeah.
And then Cannondale let me borrow a bike for about 2 months. And I was like, holy cow, this thing's great.
That was pedal assist?
Yeah. So what happened right before the pandemic, a woodworker, Phil Capizio, he's on Instagram. He works for Cannondale, and I would go on these rides on my Cannondale regular bicycle, and I would tag Cannondale, and he saw it, or he was following me, and he saw that I was riding a Cannondale, and then he reached out to me, and we were just talking, and he said, yeah, you can borrow this bike for a while. And then I thought I was going to buy one from them for maybe half price, but then the pandemic happened, and you could not get a bicycle.
Oh, yeah. Everybody was out riding bikes.
You couldn't get a bicycle. So I had that bike for maybe 2 months, and then 2 years went by, and you still couldn't really find a bicycle. And then I ended up finding, I got a random email from a bike shop in North Jersey, and they had a bike there, and I ended up buying it, and probably paid a little bit more than I would today. But I think I mentioned that viral video on the bicycle rack, more than paid for it, because it's like almost 200 million views now. Even shorts don't make a lot of money, but it's made a couple $1,000s, and it's gained me more than 213,000 YouTube subscribers.
Which has probably turned into AdSense revenue on like full length videos. Sometimes.
I don't know how much that crosses over. Like, cause I haven't uploaded a project video in a long time now. And if you don't constantly feed the YouTube machine, your numbers everything just sinks. So, I don't know. I just, I'm not feeling it. I'm going to post a project video probably in a week or two. And I think this weekend I'm posting like kind of a tip video on how to finish something. I'm painting the inside of a bookcase, and then the outside is natural finish.
Yeah, I saw the reel.
Yeah.
So do you do what I do, where you paint the inside and then sand the outside, like to get any of the extra paint?
So that's usually what I do. I've done that for years, but I tried something a little bit different this time where I finished the outside of the cabinet, including the edge, not worrying if I got a little finish on the inside. And I banded the edge with a 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch material to go over the plywood edge. And I didn't worry if I got any finish on the inside. And then after doing that, I put the delicate surface frog tape, which I think gives you a cleaner line. It's the yellow tape. I put that right at the edge, and then I painted the inside of the cabinet. Primed it and painted it with 2 coats of Benjamin Moore Command. And when I remove the tape, you do still get it's not the most perfect line.
A little bleed through,
just little bits here and there, and then I kind of feathered that in with a 320 and a sanding block. And then I went over it again with just 1 coat of Waterlox. So that I finished with a wipe-on varnish.
Right.
So Waterlox, if you're not familiar with Waterlox, basically wipe-on poly is the same stuff from Minwax. And it worked pretty good because the problem with finishing a box that is got a back on it already, spraying it's always difficult because you just end up with a lot of overspray.
Oh, yeah.
And I was trying to do something that would appeal to somebody who may want to build it but might not be able to spray. And so it really didn't take me that long because it's not a huge cabinet. So everything it's completely finished by hand, and it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's never, ever completely perfect.
Yeah, and we're not building stuff for the MoMA. It doesn't have to be.
I agree. And I think anybody who looks at it will be like, oh, that's perfect. That's a perfect line. But because I did it, I'll be like, oh, there's a little area there. So I did have a tiny bit of bleed at the miter.
Okay.
And so
where it sucked up.
Yeah, just a little bit. So I was able to get, 99% of that off, but a little bit went into the grain. The piece is veneered with Hawaiian monkey pod, and then the trim, because I didn't have any solid boards of Hawaiian monkey pod, is zebra wood. Really looks
good match.
Yeah, really good match. But because zebra wood has a little bit of a deeper grain in areas, there's a tiny bit of paint in the grain and a tiny bit of paint inside the miter. And so after, almost microscopic, but what I did there was I took a Sharpie and I just kind of painted it in.
Oh, yeah.
And it just disappears.
Yep.
And it made me think I should really get a dark brown Sharpie.
Yeah. I've used colored pencils too. It's tough with a wipe-on finish because then
you're going to wipe it away.
Right. But if you're doing sprayed, I've actually drawn grain lines back in. I have a pack of colored pencils called, what is it called? It's Colors of the World or something. It's all different skin tones. So it's every skin tone imaginable from the palest white person to the darkest skinned person.
Is it a woodworking product?
They're Crayola colored pencils.
Well, I'm wondering, do you have to worry about an adhesion issue because it could have wax in it?
Yeah, potentially, but I think it's such a small.
Yeah.
So buyer beware. Don't go and do it and blame me if you ruin your project. But
I've thought about that. You think about what can you draw on and what can you use that's not going to affect the finish. Just like you said, with a wipe on, you're going to have to think differently because you could be removing it as you're wiping on the finish.
Or making this big smudge.
Yeah. So, and it's the same thing with a spray on where you could be creating an adhesion issue. But if it's so tiny, I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, you would think that the other areas would sort of lock it together. Yeah. So I saw you were doing the bees.
Yeah, so we had a honey harvest. The guy I keep bees with, he stopped by Wednesday. I think we pulled the frames. So what happens is basically a beehive is you've got a brood box down below. That's generally where the queen bee is laying all her eggs, and the nurse bees are taking care of any bees that are being born. The life cycle is the egg gets laid, and then 3 weeks from the egg being laid, the bee emerges, and then it pretty much goes right to work.
Do they just constantly lay eggs, or is it like other animals where it's they lay eggs in the spring and then?
Yeah, it starts when it starts getting warm out. So it could be March, could be April. And she starts laying up to 1,000 eggs a day.
And that just continues for the whole warm period, like all summer? Or?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Right into the fall. And the bee's life cycle is only 3 weeks.
Wow.
So the bee only lives about 3 weeks. So it's constantly being replaced. But you can get a lot of bees.
But the queen lives longer than that, right?
The queen can live a couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah. So what will happen is if the hive starts to really expand, the bees in the hive might decide like, hey, we've got too many bees. Let's create another queen. And that's when your hive will split. And they call that a swarm.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of want to prevent swarms from happening because you want more bees because more bees mean more honey. So there's a few ways to keep that from happening. You can go into the hive periodically and look for what are called queen cells. And it looks almost like a peanut. And if you can get it where that is just starting to be built, you can remove those, and that can kind of remove that desire for them to swarm.
So is that like a super? Do they lay the eggs into the comb?
Yeah. So what'll happen is you've got 3 things in the hive. You've got the queen, you've got the workers, which are all females, and then you've got drones.
Mm-hmm.
Drones don't do anything. Drones are twice the size of the workers, and they can't sting. They have bigger eyes. You can identify them by that. And their whole purpose is just to mate.
Right.
So they go out, they fly out, and they just look for a queen. And if they fly back, that means they didn't find a queen, because if they did find a queen, they die after mating. And then the queen...
So they're like infiltrating other beehives?
No, they go out to like trees. They just like they call the queen, when the queen is born, she goes out on mating flights.
Oh, okay.
And she may, I could be wrong about this, but she may mate with a bunch of drones. And then, so anyway, what happens when they swarm is you have a bunch of queen cells in your hive. That sends like a message to the queen, like, okay, I'm out of here. And when she leaves, she takes half her hive. So if there's 10,000 bees in the hive, you just lost 5,000 bees. So anyway, what's happening down below is the brood box. That's where all that's happening. And then up above that are called honey supers. And the supers is where they store the honey. And so periodically you go through and you see what's happening up there. And the honey is flower nectar. Flower and tree nectar. Most of your nectar is really coming from trees, really. If you think about how many trees there are compared to flowers.
Right. What part of it, like flowers on trees or?
So when you see a maple budding, you see like how a maple's got all those red buds, but it hasn't leaved yet.
Right.
There's sugar all over those.
Oh, wow.
And so they're maple trees, locust trees.
Birch, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I should know, but so they're just getting their nectar from anywhere they can, and they're putting it into those combs. And then once that nectar reaches a certain lack of moisture, they cap it with wax. So when you go into the hive, you're looking for capped frames. That means it's ready to harvest. You can pull that frame, remove the cap, and spin it to get your honey. If the frames aren't capped and you spin unframed honey or nectar, it's not dry enough and it will ferment. Is
that just natural evaporation that's drying it out, or are they doing something to it?
They might be doing something to it. It could be natural evaporation. They might be kind of fluttering their wings over it. I'm not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. So I thought we were going to have a lot more honey than we did, because I have a bunch of supers on some of these hives. But it turned out that not all of the honey was capped, or not nearly as much of the honey was capped as I thought it was going to be, which could mean we have a big fall harvest. Mm-hmm. So we pulled those frames out, and then I ended up decapping and spinning it by myself because Mike was away for the weekend. And during the pulling the frames, I got a bee stuck inside my veil, and it's like a moment of panic. I'm like, wait a minute, is that bee inside? And then before you know it, I got stung in the eyebrow, And if you watch my Instagram, you saw it blew up.
Yeah,
big.
your eye even.
Yeah, it was just like swollen shut. And then I got stung like maybe 2 days later, just because I guess one was mad, which is unusual. You don't get stung all that often.
I was going to say, yeah, I thought honeybees were pretty docile.
They are until you get stung.
Yeah, I've been on like a warpath with the wasps at my house. All kinds of wasps.
Wasps are just jerks. They don't do anything.
I have the blue mud daubers, so they're black and blue, and they're like about this big, and they're a mud dauber, so they have that real skinny waist.
Okay,
and you can hear them.
Wow.
They're like sound like a helicopter. I was telling you, I got stung by one a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's right.
Those paper wasps, yellow jackets, everything. It's just like, I don't know if it has to do with all the rain we had in the spring or what.
Do you see a nest around you anywhere?
No, I can't find them. I've been looking.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of wasps. Occasionally I'll run over a ground nest, like with the lawnmower, and then you don't even, because you're in your own world when you're mowing the lawn, you know, you've got all, like, you're hearing all this loud noise. The next thing you know, you're wondering, like, why is the back of my arm burning?
Yeah.
You know, you're like, and then you realize you've got wasps all around you.
Yeah.
And that's like when you abandon the mower and
they'll just keep stinging you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they're bad.
I guess they're pollinators, some of them, not all of them.
I think they also kill some insects. So I don't have a problem with wasps. I kind of just say, people will say that. Like, the difference between a honeybee and a wasp is wasps are just jerks, you know?
Yeah, like, I'm fine with wasp. Just stay away from my house.
Yeah.
You know, go wasp somewhere else. Yeah, it's been brutal. I'm taking them out with the spray. I hate using it, but I have no choice.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, if they're kind of, it can be dangerous too. I mean,
they're aggressive.
Yeah.
Like they're, it's not like I could coexist with the wasp. Like, but if you start actively flying at me, I'm just trying to go to my shed or whatever, like, I got a problem with that.
I have a problem with honeybees when they do that. Like, I had a hive maybe 3 or 4 years ago that maybe it was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks in the summer, there was just an aggressive hive, and I'd be walking out to the barn. Next thing you know, you're getting buzzed. And if you start getting buzzed around the head by a bee, it's looking to sting you.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's just, there's no reason for it. It's looking to sting you.
That's what happened with the one that stung me. I guess, I think I was telling you, I had a tree that had fallen. It was leaning on my neighbor's fence, and I was cutting it up. And then, something came. I guess they had a nest in the tree, one of these blue mud daubers. And that's what I was running all around my backyard. Almost had a friggin' heart attack because I haven't run like that.
Moving your hands.
It was, all around my head.
Yeah.
I heard it like, buzzing past my ears, and then it finally got me.
Oh,
it hurt. It hurt for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, the one I got stung on the elbow maybe 3 or 4 days ago still hurts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of these things where you see, like, there's the woman who says the bees, you know what I mean? No. She's an attractive woman who's probably in her 20s or 30s, and she like rescues these beehives from all these different places. And she always ends everything with like, and it's another day of saving the bees. Like she says it forever. And anyway, she's never wearing any kind of beehive equipment or like a veil or, and I'm thinking like, geez, I used to think you could do that. When I first got into beekeeping, I would watch all these people keeping bees without any protective equipment. And I wouldn't wear anything. I'd just go just like I am now, short sleeves, and I'm holding up this frame, and next thing you know, I get stung on the lip, then I get stung on the eye, and I'm holding the frame where I can't really put it down. And that was it. After that, I was like, forget it. I'm just putting everything back on. And
I feel like once you stir them up, they're like out for blood.
Well, they send out a pheromone. So it's almost impossible not to have a honey harvest or beehive inspection without killing a bee, because you're picking up these boxes that weigh, 30, 60 pounds, whatever. And there's thousands of bees everywhere.
Where do you set it down without?
You're just going to accidentally squish a bee. It happens. And they will send out a pheromone like, hey, one of our buddies just got killed. Let's go, And that's there, I think, if you think of like bear just going to beehives. Yeah. And I think that's why they say don't wear black and also sting they go for your face,
right.
because like a bear, I don't think a bear
impenetrable everywhere else.
Except for maybe its nose, its eyes and its nose. Bear is just so tough.
I watched this guy, we've talked about him, Outdoor Boys. He's like a YouTube guy who goes on these crazy adventures, whatever. I watched one recently. They were in Tanzania and they went out with these tribesmen or whatever. And they just like start ripping into this tree with bees nest in the tree to get the honey. And they're just like, wearing regular T-shirts.
Are they getting stung or no?
Oh, yeah. Like crazy.
My God.
Yeah.
Well, so I have a friend, Andrew from, I forget Andrew's last name, but
Branch and Foundry.
Branch and Foundry and also Honey on Whales. And we see him every year at Maker Camp. He's a really good bee keeper. He really knows what he's doing. I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I know a little bit, but this guy knows what he's doing. He saw that post and he goes, well, John, look on the bright side. Once you have 1,000 stings, it won't bother you anymore. And it's like, I don't think I'm close to that.
Oh man. We can start a new channel. Like you ever seen that guy, Coyote Peterson?
No.
His whole shtick is he goes and gets stung by all these and bitten by all these crazy animals and insects. And
that's insane.
Yeah. He's making the money he's making.
I guess it's worth it then.
Is insane.
I guess it's worth it.
Insane.
And that's YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Coyote Peterson?
Yeah, it's not a real name, but yeah. Like he's making like tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for him.
But he goes and gets stung by like a bullet ant, which is like supposed to be the most painful sting in the world. Like all these crazy.
Will it get bit by snakes, like a copperhead or something?
I don't know if he'll do stuff like that where it could like kill you potentially, but
wow.
Yeah.
I guess that works. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like those jackass guys, like you're going to make all this money, but like you might die.
Those guys are pretty hurting now too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're beat up.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. I mean, I can only think of Johnny Knoxville, but
yeah,
I think
Bam Margera was another big one. And they're all turned into alcoholics and or maybe they were at the time, drug addicts.
I think Johnny Knoxville seemed like he did the best, or one of them that did the best. Bam Margera, he just seems like a disaster.
Yeah, I think he is sober now, but was like, they had to commit him and like all this crazy stuff.
Well, the one guy, I forget his name, but he has a pretty successful podcast.
Steve-O.
Steve-O's great.
Yeah.
I like him.
He's one that was like really messed up on drugs and stuff.
And he's got his act together now.
Yeah.
Didn't he just do something like get a weird face tattoo or something? Walter was telling me.
I don't know, maybe.
That I think he put something like really like, I don't know, something pretty crazy like on his face. Mm-hmm. And his friends were like, what are you doing? I don't know. I didn't see this, but Walter was telling me that he did something like pretty lewd, I think.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. So I get fed clips of his podcast sometimes on Instagram, and he grew up in like a super wealthy family. Yeah. I forget what his dad did, but he was like the CEO of they made something, I don't know, let's say it was matches, and they went to like the factory in Africa, and he was like, man, look how these like your employees are working. Like, can't you do something like to make it better? And he's like, there's more people outside waiting for a job than there are people working.
I don't know. What does that say?
I don't know, but it was just,
yeah.
He was, the point of it, he was like, oh man, my dad's a dick. That was his point.
Apparently his dad was super successful and I think sober, and his mom was a disaster.
Oh, okay.
And like her whole side of the family was crazy. Mm-hmm. So the father side seemed to be like overachievers, and the mother side seemed to be like crazy. And I guess he got that craziness, because he was far out on drugs and alcohol, and I guess he's been sober for a while now.
I mean, you have to be to do the stuff that they were doing.
Yeah, it was pretty nutty.
I was thinking before, I didn't look. I could probably scroll real quick and find one, but we told the people that we were going to be doing a comment of the week.
This was for the table saw.
Yeah, so like for last week's video, the idea is this week to do a comment of the week. There was I I have one. It was from Chris Gardner, who's always got a snarky comment on the videos, but this one wasn't snarky. He said, and his YouTube handle is Chris Gardner 3606. It's like we're having a conversation. You're turning that knob on the fence, and I'm saying to myself, "What does that do?" And 2 seconds later, you say, "To be honest, I don't know what this does." Almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah, that was good. I thought that was a good comment. I like that.
And I said something to the effect of, it's like, hey, I mean, we're honest. Like, we're not going to reshoot the video because I didn't know what it was and then pretend like I knew.
It's good because often it's one shoot, or it's one clip. And I think that transition is just like a page turning, because it was a good, 5 minutes, kind of looking at it, figuring out, and then figuring out, okay, how do we make this transition?
Yeah. And
then we talked about the transition a little bit. Then you said it, and then I just sort of cut all that out. And so it just flipped over, and you're like, and then you basically said, we didn't know what it does, but now this is what it does.
Yeah, which is like, I feel like 95% of people who were, let's say you bought the saw and you would do the same thing.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell does this do?
100%. Yeah. So I thought that was a good comment. I read all the comments. Jeff replies to them all.
Mm-hmm.
You're good at replying to comments. So
thanks.
It's good that you do that. I think that's a great skill.
Takes me a couple days sometimes to sometimes on Saturday, I just don't have the bandwidth to the mental bandwidth to reply. So it's like sometimes takes me to Monday, usually Monday morning before work. I'm like, let me hit these comments.
I try to do that on my channel, and it's the same thing. I usually don't reply the first day.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm just sort of burnt out, and I want to kind of read through them, and then I might do that on a Sunday morning or something. And or if you happen to be in a place where you can't really do anything,
mm-hmm. You're sitting at the airport or something.
Yeah, you're sitting somewhere, or you're waiting for the grill to warm up or
mm-hmm.
whatever. I cook on charcoal, so it's a little bit of a time lag.
Oh yeah, I don't have the patience for that.
Well, break your gas grill and you'll get the patience.
Yeah. my in-laws are on charcoal now. My father-in-law Jamie's like, I'm just getting a little hibachi. I'm like, you out of your goddamn mind.
I ended up picking up one of the Webers. It's like $100.
Mm-hmm.
We had one of those when we had the house in Vermont and the kids were little. And for me, it's nostalgic. It just, lighting the grill is like a sign to relax.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of okay, sit back and have a beer, or, I quit drinking. I think I told you for probably 4 months or something, but I'm back to drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I drink a lot, but I have a beer or two, but often, I don't drink nearly as much, meaning
mm-hmm.
I was good for a beer or two a day, not every day, but just about every day. But then I stopped, and now I drink just tonic water,
mm-hmm.
which I like. It still gives you that sort of feeling okay, I'm taking a break.
Like a mocktail.
Is that what they call that?
Yeah, like a mock cocktail.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. They have ones that you would probably be into this, like nootropic ones that are supposed to they have other, I don't want to say mind altering, but they, things that might make you feel relaxed and they're, it's all botanical stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to try that because tonic water is really not that good for you.
Yeah, it's really high in sugar.
Yeah, it really is.
I do like the taste though.
I do too. It's I don't like soda. I don't like Pepsi
mm-hmm.
or Sprite. And I don't like the feeling I get from sodas. Pepsi or Sprite will give me a headache immediately. But I can drink tonic water with ice. And I like to, I can't stand ice from the freezer. White ice, because it's white.
Yeah.
And so I go and I buy a bag of ice
mm-hmm.
every couple of days. It's crystal clear. And, I pack the glass full of ice, and then you're really not having that much tonic water. I buy those, I think they're 10-ounce bottles, because if you buy a large bottle, it goes flat so quick.
What is it, Schweppes?
I'll do Schweppes, or I'll do the other one. Canada Dry.
Canada Dry.
Yeah, whatever's there.
Canadian Club. That's a whiskey. I'm a seltzer guy. Grapefruit seltzer.
I'm gonna have to try that. There's no sugar in that, is there?
No.
Yeah. I just like tonic water, but I'll have to try that. I could get used to that.
That's good. Like usually I just drink it out of the can. And I like the Aldi brand for some reason. My wife, sometimes she buys Polar, which is like kind of like it's not expensive, but it's more expensive than Aldi. And it doesn't taste, it has a totally different taste from the Aldi one.
Didn't you used to have that in the shop here all the time?
Yeah.
I remember having a few cans of that.
They always explode in the fridge, so I stopped bringing them in.
Because it's too cold?
Yeah. And I was drinking so much seltzer that I was getting tooth sensitivity.
Really?
It's really bad for, like, the carbonation is bad for your enamel or whatever. So
I've heard that about Coke.
I had to cut back.
Wow. It's amazing how everything will get you.
Yeah. It's like, man, I don't like drink or smoke. It's like, the seltzer. You got to lay off the seltzer.
Yeah, I don't have too many vices either. I mean, that was it. I would love to have like 1 or 2 beers, but I just feel like as soon as I have a beer, then I'm not going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Where now, it's funny. I put these bars in for Michael when Michael was maybe 13. It's a set of calisthenic bars, so dips and pull-ups, and they're kind of a little ways from the house. But now I'll go out. Like if I had a beer, there's no way I'd go out to those bars and do a workout. But with a tonic water, I'll go out there and I'll be like, okay, I'll do a couple runs on the pull-ups and a couple of the dips. And I would never do that otherwise. So I just find that as soon as you have a beer, you kind of put everything.
Oh yeah. Like if I have a couple beers or even like one, I'm going to want to eat stuff that I shouldn't be eating. You know,
like I don't get that. I don't get the eating thing. I'd rather have my problems than I'd want another beer.
Yeah. Well, that too. But yeah, like, you have a couple beers, you're like, oh, I want to have a slice of pizza or whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like anything, I guess it's all in moderation, but I'm just at a place right now where I'm really focused on fitness. I think you guys might know that I started trying to build a sauna a while ago, and that's one of those things I haven't really done. I was thinking about that again today. That'll be a cool project, though.
Yeah, what'd you do with all the Baltic birch? Is it?
So we cut it. I'm doing the framing out of 24 mil Baltic birch, which is about a true inch.
Yeah.
So instead of using studs, I'm using this 24 mil Baltic because I want to make the walls 2 inches thick. And I just felt like I didn't want to rip a bunch of studs, and I felt like they would turn into bananas,
Yeah.
So Jeff ordered the Baltic birch and we ripped it down. I think we just ripped it in half.
Yeah.
We ripped it in half, or we might have ripped it at 12. I don't remember.
I think they were just in half.
Yeah. So we ripped it in half, and then I have that in storage along with all the shiplap that I made in poplar. And
I forgot about that too.
I think what happened was it got warm out, and the desire to make a sauna after it got warm sort of left.
Yeah.
But it'll come back. But that'll be nice. The idea of going from the cold plunge especially in like November, to a 20-minute sauna will be great.
Is there any danger in do you have to wait, like get out of the ice bath and then wait like a couple minutes? You can just get right in?
You can get right in. You're so cold.
I guess that's the point, is like that extreme shock.
I think so. I mean, it's funny doing the cold plunge. So I haven't done the cold plunge now in probably a couple of maybe almost 2 months, because it's just too hard to get it cold, and I don't have a real thing. So I rely on it being cold outside. I was trying to make ice cubes and like with Tupperwares full of ice cubes and all. Yeah. It was just like a lot of work.
This weather, man, you could have 2 5-gallon buckets frozen and it's going to last 10 minutes.
It would be so easy to get into an ice bath in this weather, though. Getting in an ice bath when you walk across the snow with bare feet, that's like and then you have to break the ice to get in.
Then the ice is sharp, no?
No, it's not bad. You know, it's funny because the tub is metal. It's just one of those things from Tractor Supply. You would think you don't want to touch the edge, like you're going to stick to the edge like a cold pipe or something, but you don't. It's just because it's the same temperature as the water,
right? And
it's one of those things. I guess there's a lot of hype around it and all that, but I found it to be pretty amazing. Like it's a game changer. So I would get in for 3.5 minutes, and then go right into weightlifting and be freezing in the weightlifting until maybe 15 or 20 minutes in. So you almost need to like weightlift, like so cold that you could barely like operate your phone because you're shaking so much. So the idea of going from that, being that cold and then getting into a sauna is going to be nice.
Yeah, and it's like a little reward to get you through those minutes. It's like, okay, I got the hot,
Yeah, and it's like I don't need much. Where I don't need to go on vacation. I'm a really boring person. The idea of just being able to go on a bike ride and then work out and read a book, it's all I need.
Well, that's the secret. It's like everybody's living for the weekend. It's like, no, you got to build a life where you're ready to get up every morning and do your day that you do, even if it's the same thing every day. You have to enjoy that. You can't live for vacation. What does that happen? Once a year, twice a year, if you're lucky?
The weekends, in my mind, aren't that much different from the weekdays. I probably work maybe even a little bit more during the weekends in the shop because I'm not getting pulled from other places. Like during the week, I might have to bring my daughter somewhere. I might have to run some errand. But in the Saturday and Sunday, Sunday we go to church. So that's a pretty big spot of time. It's about a good hour and a half by the time you go there. And I usually will go on a long bike ride. I'll wake up early and go on a hard bike ride. So I have the patience to be in church.
Well, Sunday's probably like when you get like, later in the day, Sunday's probably slammed on the trails.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my whole goal is to be in the trails when no one's in the trails.
Yeah.
And I found though that like 4:30, 5 o'clock on a Sunday, people, and a Saturday even, maybe 6 o'clock on a Saturday, people aren't in the trails because they're starting to think about their nightlife.
Yeah.
Where I'm just an old boring guy. I'm like, okay, I'll be out here when nobody's out here.
That's a great time of day though in the summer.
I love it. Yeah. The morning and the evening. Yeah. The best time.
Speaking of church, we were at St. Anthony's, Cameron and I took him. I was going to go by myself. I'm like, I better bring him. I want to show him the work that we've done. We're going to be doing some more work over there. Some like maybe crazy molding on these curved ceilings, flexible molding. And
wow.
Yeah.
Painted?
Yeah. So they have a guy who will paint it. So we did this whole back altar with all this crazy stuff we cut on the laser, and they had one of the parishioners painted it in this gold paint. Looks great.
Great.
Mm-hmm. I was talking to Walter about that. We did this coat of arms. It's like the oratory of St. Philip or something, which I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what it is. I don't even know what oratory is, but St. Anthony's Church was just named by the Pope as the official oratory.
Wow.
Whatever that is. Again, I'm not positive what it is, but so they want to get another one of these emblems made that we had put on the altar rail, like a big one, and hang it over the main altar. You've been in there, right?
Yeah, well, that was
this huge arch.
That was the church that my wife belonged to, because I didn't start going to church until maybe 6 months ago. But she went to Catholic church, and that's where the boys were baptized, and that was the church we went to. So when you and Rob started doing those projects, I was like, holy cow, that's wild. That's Laurel's church. And I would go there from time to time for
Christmas and Easter.
Yeah, Christmas and Easter. But she started going to Red Bank Baptist Church, First Baptist, I think. And I like that because it's I don't know. I just like it better.
More contemporary.
You don't have all the pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
And I can grasp it. Mm-hmm. Where when I would go to church at St. Anthony's, I might have been at church, but I was mountain biking or working on something in my shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was definitely not there.
Yeah, they even do like the Latin Mass, so like the whole Mass is in Latin, stuff like that.
And I don't have any issues with any religion.
No.
I'm just saying I responded more to the church so my wife was going to this church for maybe 2 or 3 years now. And then I think we went for maybe Christmas, maybe 6 months ago, right? And then the following week she said, "Oh, you want to go to church?" And I said, "Yes." And so since then I've been going to church, and the people are really nice. Mm-hmm. And for me, like I have to kind of work it around my schedule. And so I'll do all this stuff and I'll get myself where I don't feel antsy.
Yeah.
Because I've woken up very early and done some editing and gone mountain biking and done all this stuff. And now I feel like, okay, I can chill out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like if I wake up on the weekend, my wife's like, you want to go to the beach? It's like I get like a guilty feeling, you know?
Do you go? I mean, oh, wait. Do you get a guilty feeling if you do go?
Yeah, about going. Because like I feel like I should be like at the shop working or something, you know?
That's the condition that we are in these days. We're always supposed to be productive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to get less of that. You know, it's I think that's a good sign though, because that means you're kicking ass. You're doing stuff. Your head's in the right place. But at the same time, you do have to say to yourself, oh, well, my wife asked me to go to the beach. We don't go to the beach that much. I'll go. And
yeah, I'm definitely pushing myself to do. That was like the soccer game last night. Did I want to go? No. Come on. Like, you know,
now,
get home at 10 p.m.
Did you bring Hunter?
He came with us.
Wow. So that's a late night for him.
Yeah.
How was he towards the end of the night?
He was good. He brought his tablet. He wanted to play. I'm like, no. I'm like, listen, you're here to watch the soccer game. Like, if you wanted to play your tablet, you could have just stayed home and went to bed regular time. Like, you know, try and not be a dick, but like push him to like, you don't need to play your tablet. Watch the soccer game. That's what you're here for.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so important to have your kids participate in life. And those are the things that they'll remember. They're not going to remember playing the tablet.
No.
Like I made my daughter help me decap the honey.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Saturday morning. I did most of it by myself Friday night, and I had a few frames left. I think I was out there till almost 11 o'clock Friday night.
Wow.
But I enjoyed that. I'm listening to music. I'm just out in my shop decapping honey frames.
Mm-hmm.
So I had maybe 8 frames left, and I made her come out and do that with me. At the very least, she's always going to remember that. You know, and she's a 15-year-old girl. It's the last thing she wants to do. But she adopted a good attitude within, halfway through the first frame. And that's something that she'll remember. Kids don't know what's good for them.
Yeah, I get into it with my wife every now and then. Like, I'll push my son to do something, try something. And, she'll be like, he doesn't want to do it. I'm like, listen, it's our responsibility to push him to do these things. If we didn't, he would just do nothing. He would just sit on it because it's the easy thing to do.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, the worst thing you can do is spoil a child. Kids don't know. Like my daughter would go fishing with me all the time. And the times that she didn't go, I would make her go.
Mm-hmm.
And she remembers that. And it's so important. I can't stress it enough. And I know that you don't spoil Hunter, but I've seen people whose kids are around my age, not my age, my kids' age. And so I wasn't tough on my kids, but they had to help out. And
mm-hmm.
I would, there was one time Jack and I got stuck in the van. I was moving something up into the house in Vermont, and we kind of drove the van around the back. And as I was driving, I'm like, oh, shoot, we're going to be stuck here. But I kept going because I was like, we're already going to be stuck on the way out. So after we unloaded the van, I told him we're going to get stuck here. So he got in the front seat with me. And I think he was like 9 or 10 at the time. And we had to back out the way we came in. And of course we did get stuck. And then so we had to go find lumber somewhere and jack up the truck. And, I didn't say, go ahead and play somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I said, this is what we're doing. And I'm going to ask you to get stuff for me and do stuff. And he remembers that, and then the kids who were sort of spoiled, they just don't have the same work ethic.
Yeah, I mean, you don't remember, remember that Saturday 5 years ago where I sat on the couch and watched TV all day? Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that stuff or you shouldn't let your kids, veg out on their tablet, but they're not going to remember.
No, you got to push them beyond their comfort zone and introduce them to hard work, because there's a real sense of accomplishment. A big one for my kids was shoveling dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Getting 10 yards of topsoil and say, okay, we got to move this.
That's a lot.
And then when they would see it like get moved, they'd be like, oh, wow, it's, it's not too overwhelming. So I wanted to mention 2 homeowner projects that I did this week. One, everyone should be doing, which I let lapse, and that is cleaning out your vent hose for your dryer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Every time I take my laundry out, I'm like, I got to get something up in there.
Yeah. I had an area in mind where I'd been cleaning out like the hose that came from the dryer and this hose that was close to the outside. But then I knew that there was a part of the hose that was in the wall that I never got to. It's been bothering me for years until finally the clothes just weren't drying. And so, and I knew it was going to be not like a 15-minute job. Mm-hmm. And I ended up having to like go through the sheetrock wall. I had to go through, they had all this radon plastic down from when they did that like 27 years ago. When I bought the house, I had to do the radon and redo all the piping. But that one section of hose that I wasn't able to get at probably had the space in it of like an inch and a half. It was just
it's like
full.
A clogged artery.
Yeah, it was just so full. And I mean, it was just a fire waiting to happen. So that was one project. It was everyone should do. And I'm saying that now because it took me 20 something years to do it. And so I feel great about myself for getting it done.
I have one of those things that you put on a drill, you know, it's like you screw
Does
them
it
together.
go far enough?
Oh, it's like 20 feet long, I think.
If you can do that without busting your hose, then you're good.
Yeah.
Because I've done that, but I couldn't get into this one area.
Yeah, I got to try that. I have it here. We had it because the ductwork at the old shop went through the floor, you know?
I remember that.
And sometimes that would get clogged.
I remember that.
And it would back all the way up. It would fill the saw. We wouldn't know until the table saw was packed full of chips.
Yeah, I remember that because Rob had the piping underneath the slab.
Mm-hmm.
So I used that thing, but and that is a good thing. And you can also use an electric leaf blower.
Yeah, I've seen people do that.
Yeah,
that seems like a mess, though.
It also isn't. It's not really going to get out because the lint has a way of sort of sticking to the pipe. Yeah. I replaced all the pipe. I just got rid of it all. And then the other thing that you probably won't have to do unless you have a septic system, I have a sewage tank and a gray water tank. And every couple of years, I have to clean out the gray water tank. And what that entails is it's a straight run that's maybe 18 feet from the inside of the basement to where the tank is. And the way I figured out how to do that was I take a 2x4 and then I attached a piece to the end with a taper. So it can actually have some pushing power. I took that 2x4 and I ripped it into like 1.5 inches by 1 inch. Right. So like several pieces. Mm-hmm. And then, and that gives me like a plunger on the end, but because it's tapered, it won't get caught.
Right.
And I push that. And as I get to the 8 feet, then I screw another piece of that 2x4 to it with like 2 or 3 screws. Cause you don't want this to break off inside the pipe.
Man, if that gets stuck in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it takes, it must only be about 14 feet, maybe 16 feet. No, 15 feet. Cause it's just at the end of 2 2x4s. I have 3 pieces, but I end up only using 2. And, I knew that because if I start to get water in my washer, that means it's not draining right. And I had to replace that about 5 years ago or maybe 10 years ago. So I know it works and I know how it works. You get that scum on top and then the water drains out into the leach field. But because it's a gray water, that's like the worst thing. Like
that's like all like that's not like toilet. That's all the drains, like aside from the toilets and stuff.
That's all your sink and your washing machine. And those are the ones that'll give you the most trouble because you don't
grease and stuff.
The grease. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm like,
I feel like the conditioner and stuff in the shower is like real bad. Like
hair.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My daughter's got really long hair, and I mean...
The worst is when you have to unscrew that plug in the sink. And
I'm the guy who does that all. And I'm just like, you should get a really short haircut.
Me too. And then my wife will use like this like clay like on her face, like literal like clay. And then it's in the drain. I'm like, how? What? Or the best, you see like rice and pasta in the kitchen sink. I'm like, this cannot be in here. I'm like, this is like going to destroy the plumbing.
I found a tea bag in the washing machine. Well, not the washing machine, the dishwasher. I was putting stuff in the dishwasher. I'm like, nobody thinks about this stuff. Nobody thinks like, okay, that's out of sight, out of mind. No, it's just like you can't throw a Q-tip down the toilet. That's just an accident. That's just trouble waiting to happen, or a paper towel. So that's just, again, being the maintenance man in the house.
Yeah, when you're the shit shoveler,
Yeah. You remember these things.
Yeah.
When you're the one who deals with it, you remember.
Right.
But my wife's actually really good at like helping out with projects, because she'll, if I say, okay, I'm going to clean out this clean out, the clean out, that's what it's called. She's right there sort of helping me get prepped and ready. You know what I mean? Like,
my wife is eager to help, but she doesn't take directions very well, and it devolves very quickly.
That may change as you get older. I think it changes. I think as you get older, I think my wife's pretty intuitive to what I'm doing, and also appreciates where, like, when I remember when we first got married, I was like, I think I really need a chainsaw. And she was like, what do you need to get a chainsaw for? And then when I bought a chainsaw and she saw what I did with it, she's like, oh, well, if you need it.
Yeah, just saved us like $1,000 bucks.
Yeah. Like I rented a cherry picker, I guess, or I forget what it's called. It's just like a thing you drag behind your truck to get up to high places to.
Yeah.
It's not called I think it's called a something lift.
Like a man lift?
Yeah. It's that kind of thing.
Is it the one that didn't get stuck up or something?
It did get stuck up a few times. I had
or then it like set on fire.
Yeah. When I picked it up, I said to the guy, I've never used one of these. Just give me a quick lesson. The guy did not want to talk to me at all.
Was it Semcor?
Yeah, it was. And this guy had come in. He's like, man, I can't believe I'm in here today. I'm sick. I shouldn't be here. And I'm like, well, just show me one or two things. So he showed me a couple things, but he didn't take the emergency brake off. So by the time I got home, I'm like, where's this smoke coming from? I'm walking around on my truck. I'm like, man, I smell like burning rubber. And next thing you know, the back brake, disc brake or whatever it is, parking brake just burst into flames. Luckily, the hose was right there and I put it out. And then it was great because I told them I'd rather them pick it up, because I wasn't really comfortable with if it was going to be a problem now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll pick it up for you. And they ended up not picking it up for like 2 days later. So in that time, I was like, oh, yeah, I should really trim that tree and I should trim that tree. But that's another one of those things where I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to rent one of these things. And she's like, oh, great. And she's like pointing out all the trees we can trim, instead of having a truck come, a tree guy come and it's, whatever, a couple grand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my in-laws just had a maple trimmed and like $2,000.
Yeah.
Just trimmed.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes, the price gets high quick. I mean, there's a few things that are beyond me and I won't, touch them, but there's definitely some more. I could see myself renting that machine again. I might rent the one, I think the thing I rented might have been, I don't know, $350 all in. I forget exactly.
That's not bad.
Not too bad. No, it wasn't bad at all.
Is that for one day?
Well, I always rent on a Saturday, and then you pick it up on a Saturday, and they're not open on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
So you Monday. Get it at like 7:00 in the morning on a Saturday, and then you have it all day and Sunday. And I think I had that thing until Wednesday or something. But there's another one that I think might be closer to $600 that you drive, but that one has to be delivered, and then you have a delivery fee too. But it might be worth it because towing the thing around with my truck made it difficult to get into some of the tight spaces. Mm-hmm. There's, a couple septic systems on my property that I have to keep an eye out for. So it might be worth a couple extra bucks. And especially, you just do the math. Is it going to cost me $3,000 or $4,000 to get these trees trimmed by a tree guy? Or do I rent this machine for $600 or $700 and do it myself?
Yeah.
So, and I would say that I think I just used an electric chainsaw the entire time. And now that I've got that little Milwaukee hatchet, I'd probably use that for 80% of it, because that'll cut a 6-inch log, no problem.
Yeah, it's a pretty good size.
Yeah, it's pretty good size. And especially when you're just talking about limbing trees up.
Yeah, it's not like you're cutting a whole tree down.
No, then you break out the bigger saw when you have to go and figure, okay, how am I going to process this thing into parts that I can get to the dump or firewood?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's what's going on in my world.
Yeah, what do you think? Should we?
You want to tell people what the video? Did we talk about the kitchen?
So we talked about the Striebig, and then we also shot. We have a kitchen in the shop right now. It's supposed to be leaving the shop in about 8 days. We'll see what happens with the doors. What about all of like the inserts and stuff? So we have like a spice. We gotta get B-roll of the spice thing for the drawer. Like a cooking utensil pull out for next to the stove, so you can keep your big spoons and spatulas and all that stuff. A cleaning pull out next to the sink for paper towels and sponges and that kind of stuff. Cleaning products. Have the Le Mans unit for the corner, which is like amazing. Kidney shaped pull out that articulates in and out of the cabinet in like this S sort of shape. Garbage pull out, baking sheet pull out. A bunch of rollouts. It's
really nice. My wife, I'm going to show her that video, and she'll really get her wheels turning on what we want to do eventually. Because at some point we have like one of those terrible like
Lazy Susan.
Oh my god, horrible.
Yeah, and like nobody makes those diagonal corner cabinets anymore, or pie cuts, whatever.
They're terrible.
I was never a fan.
No.
You always get something that like sticks up and then you can't turn it because it's hitting like the handle of a pot or something.
That's a huge amount of space. And you think about it. I mean, that's a 24 by 24 inch space that just goes to waste.
Yeah. There's other cool ones like Magic Corner where it's like 2 drawers. One pulls straight out and the other one comes over sideways. There's some cool stuff.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good video.
Yeah. I have stuff we didn't even talk about, like these pegboards that go inside of drawers that have these different, like you could have like a post so you can make like a border around like your plates. That way you can divide like your plates and your bowls and all that kind of stuff.
The quality on those products, those organizational products, I mean, it's really top shelf. Just give me a price on, let's say the rack for the cookie trays.
Let me see. I can look it up exact. You know, you're talking a couple $100.
I was going to say, because that is quality.
Yeah. So those are made by Century Components, which is an Amish company, and we buy them through Hayfla. And they're like a direct competitor to Revishelf, which is like sort of the standard for that kind of stuff. You know, everybody knows Revishelf, but if you're a cabinet maker or, you know, deal with a lot of cabinets, you know that the quality on Revishelf is just like, it's junk. It's made in Vietnam.
It's not worth it.
So let's see. Graziano. See all these total. I feel like I spent like 15 grand with Hayfla like 2 weeks ago. Here we go. So for the cleaning pull out, $329. The canister one for like your cooking utensils, $419.
Those are nice though. I mean, that's the thing that's going to keep a kitchen nice.
Yeah.
Like those canisters are just like when you said you put the olive oil bottle inside that.
Yep.
I mean, and the place to put the sponge in that like acrylic dish. Those are all the things that'll keep your kitchen nice, because you get a kitchen and then it's like that space under the sink just gets gross.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like, you know, we have like a silverware thing, utility thing. This is those. So you put this pegboard in the bottom of your drawer and then you have all these.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Yeah. I got some of these for my kitchen. So we could, I don't have as much stuff in mine. I just have a spice pull out, a trash pull out, 2 of those. They're not Le Mans. They're the Celiche version. Going in my kitchen. So we could always shoot another.
For sure.
A more in-depth one.
I know that I'm interested in that stuff. I was just blown away by the quality. I mean, just maple, solid maple.
And it's all like got a bunch of curl in it. It's like, it's really nice
with
stuff.
A nice finish too. It's like it's just really solid.
Yeah. They're like, motto is like bench made, you know, like there's some guy on a workbench making these. It's not, Revishelf is being cranked out in some factory overseas. And the price for the like, let's see, how much was the garbage pull out? $335. Revishelf Garbage pull out. $389. Look at this. This is crap.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And all of this Century stuff. So if we didn't say it, the company is Century Components. They all have 3 drawer slides. So they have 2 on the bottom, and then they'll have 1 on the top.
Okay,
like,
nice.
Not in the top, but like in the middle.
Sure.
So it doesn't rack. And they're using Bloom, which are, the second best slide next to Salice. But yeah, it's nice stuff.
Yeah.
Hafla has another line that's more comparable to the Revishelf stuff. And it's got to be half the price of Revishelf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will you use it?
It's called Elemental. It's an imported thing. Given the job called for something cheaper.
What about your own home?
I would go to like the European stuff, which is metal at that point.
Okay.
So I went with a Kessa Boomer garbage pullout on mine, and you get that for less than $200.
All right.
And it's nice, made in Germany, but it's metal instead of wood. Wood costs money to make stuff out of wood.
Anyway, so that'll be the video for Saturday.
Yeah. So don't forget to write in your comment of the week also.
There you go. And I guess we didn't do a listener appreciation or something like that, right?
Well, yeah, that was our shout out to Chris Gardner. Were we doing
listener idea? We were talking about like a tip.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that was a video idea that we were gonna compile all these tips from people, and then we
have we gotten any tips?
Yeah, I started a folder in my phone of I'm screenshotting.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we got a bunch.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, next week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so keep writing those in. I think that could be like an ongoing series where sort of like a tip busters, where you send in your tip and we could either.
Well, it's also great content because I think tips just get a lot of views.
Mm-hmm.
So we can categorize them so they sort of go together, or we'll figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good for us because it's always good if we can get more views.
Yeah.
Where I think that if we look at, I think our 5 tip video and the one that didn't work is probably one of our highest.
Yeah, that's what is it, over 5,000?
I think so, yeah. And we're usually good for anywhere between 1,500 and 3,000 views, like in the first week.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we'll try to get some shorts because it's always good if we can get a viral short. Not that crosses over into other videos that much, but it does sometimes build subscribers.
Yeah, and there's the stigma, like people when they go to your channel, they look at your subscriber count, and that's how they make a decision as to if you're worth watching or not. And like, oh, these guys have 5,000 followers. Or, oh man, these guys have 500,000 followers. They must be. And
for a potential sponsor.
Yeah.
So it's always good to do that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll talk to everybody next week. Tune in if you're listening to this on Friday, tomorrow, Saturday, 8:30 a.m. every week for the video. And keep an eye out for any midweek videos.
Yeah, I think we might have one tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you guys next week.
All right. See ya.
If you enjoyed this episode, please tell a friend or share it on social media. You can leave a review of this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, today's Craftsman YouTube channel has an upload every Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you next week.